Okay, so thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this council meeting of the West Lincoln Township this evening. Today is Monday, February 23rd, and this is meeting number 2 of 2026. So I'm going to ask you, please, if you're able to stand for the singing of O Canada. Tonight we have Cairn Christian School performing. So thank you, everyone. We have been rotating through all of our local schools with O Canada. For those of you who are here, if you joined in, thank you for doing that. If you didn't, we pretty much listen to the children's voices as much as possible. So before beginning this meeting, I'd like to make the following announcements. The public may submit comments for matters that are on the agenda to jpaylove@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 on the day of the meeting. Comments submitted will be considered as public information and read into the public record. This meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded and will be available on the Township's website. And we'll begin, as always, with the land acknowledgement. The Township of West Lincoln, being part of Niagara Region, is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Wendourong, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Township of West Lincoln, as part of the Regional Municipality of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. And Councillor Trombetta, you have the opening petition this evening?
I do, Madam Mayor, thank you. We meet to serve our community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognize our responsibilities to the past and to the future, and to the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, may we act wisely and well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. So, members of Council, are there any changes in order of items on the agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and/or conflict of interest? And again, seeing none. So item 6 on our agenda, our council agenda, is always an opportunity for members of the public to speak to items that are on the agenda. Under 6.7 of the public comments at council, there shall be no comments from the public permitted at council unless A, a specific appointment has been scheduled, or B, an item is included in the other business or communications or appointments section of the agenda and relates to a matter which would normally be dealt with at committee. So I'm going to ask if there are any members of the public present who wish to address a specific item on our agenda this evening. And seeing none, I think you all have appointments. And Kevin, is there anyone online?
Not seeing any, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we do have 2 appointments this evening. The first is Niagara Regional Police. We have with us Chief Forty and Staff Sergeant Bourgeois, but we also have another crew of people, but I'm going to ask the Chief if he would introduce those who came with him. We're really happy to have you this evening. Thank you for such a wonderful delegation in front of our council. We know that the budget has just passed, and we know that policing is an important part of that, so we're happy to hear from you this evening.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here. I believe the last time I was here, you and I were speaking with your Youth Advisory Council.
With the Youth Advisory Council,
Yeah,
that's right, yeah.
Great. So thank you. I'm here with our board chair, Narai Kapsavanu. She has international experience in governance and matters related to governance. We're very fortunate to have her here with us this evening. I'm joined by Deputy Chief Mario Lagrateria to my left. You know Dylan Bourgeois, the detachment commander, And I also have Stephanie Sabrin, who oversees our corporate communications unit.
Thank you.
What we thought we would do, with your permission, is Dylan Bourgeois, Staff Sergeant Bourgeois, would do a presentation on matters specific to the area. And then any follow-up questions that you might have, either Dylan can answer them, or Mario, or myself, or the board chair, or Stephanie. Whoever is best positioned to answer that would take our best shot at trying to provide you a timely, reliable, accurate information.
Okay, so perfect. So proceed as you wish to go, and we'll be happy to listen to what you have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to invite Staff Sergeant Bourgeois to the podium. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Again, thank you, Mayor and members of Council, for having us here today. Our service continues to move forward with a clear focus, community-centered policing. Over the last several years, as a service, we've made investment in leadership, engagement, and transparency because that is what the community has consistently told us matters most. Through consultations for our strategic plan and other service initiatives, the message has been clear. People want a modern, accountable police service that listens and adapts. Everything we do is rooted in that purpose, protecting the safety and well-being of everyone across the region, including the town of West Lincoln. I'd like to draw your attention to this slide detailing our yearly calls for service. You'll notice that the graph shows demand on our police service is expected to increase over the next 5 years. In 2025, 2,077 calls for service were received in West Lincoln, a 12% increase from 2024. This was driven predominantly by traffic-related calls and service requests. Traffic remains a major part of our daily workload, accounting for nearly 1/3 of all calls. We also continue to respond to steady volumes of domestic or family-type calls that are non-criminal, along with mental health-related calls and disturbances that can be time-intensive. These highlight the broader role police play in community safety. This chart gives you a picture of what's driving calls for service in West Lincoln over the past 3 years. As noted on the previous slide, traffic and road safety continue to generate the highest number of calls. Although we've seen a slight decrease in 2025 compared to 2023, it remains our single largest demand area. That tells us road safety continues to matter deeply to residents and remains a clear operational priority for our officers. Community safety and disorder calls rose in 2024 and have since leveled off in 2025. These types of calls often require early intervention, de-escalation, and preventative engagement. They reflect some of the broader social pressures we're seeing across communities in Niagara and the important role officers play beyond traditional enforcement. Crime-related calls, categorized as past or non-emergency, have fluctuated with an increase in 2025. This can indicate that residents continue to feel confident reporting incidents to police. It also reinforces the need for thorough follow-up and ongoing community reassurance. Assistance and interagency support calls have varied from year to year. Many of these involve working alongside community partners such as Niagara EMS, highlighting that modern policing is part of a broader network of services responding to the complex needs of our community. Overall, while crime remains an important focus, the majority of our service demand in West Lincoln continues to stem from traffic safety and community-based concerns. Our deployment reflects these realities: visible patrols, strong road safety enforcement, and early intervention with partners when issues arise. This slide shows a regional heat map of police activity across Niagara. The red and yellow areas represent the highest concentration of calls for service and overall activity. As you would expect, those areas are largely centered in St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, and Welland, our more densely populated municipalities. We also see notable activity in Grimsby and Lincoln, reflecting growth in those communities. West Lincoln shows moderate but steady demand across the township. This reinforces the need for balanced deployment, maintaining a strong local presence while supporting regional response when needed. Looking specifically at West Lincoln, in 2025, calls are mainly focused in the area of Smithville. We also look at overall harm, which is driven by the nature of the calls reported. In 2025, the overall harm in West Lincoln did rise, driven by a small number of offense types. Break and enters became the top contributor to harm, surpassing motor vehicle thefts. Vehicle thefts and thefts from motor vehicles also continued to rise at levels consistent with regional and provincial trends. There were a few more serious but low volume offenses reported in 2025, including child luring, sexual offenses, and frauds, which add to the harm picture and require more complex investigations and victim support. Most of this activity remains centered in Smithville, and calls continue to peak late in the afternoon and evening, particularly in the warmer months. This suggests the increase is tied more to predictable activity patterns and seasonal behavior rather than isolated or unusual spikes. In 2025, 607 provincial offense notices were issued in respect to speed violations, along with 168 warnings in West Lincoln. Additionally, speed enforcement projects are held regularly, with proactive patrols focusing on rural areas. We also have a collaborative partnership with Niagara Region Vision Zero, which aims to make roads safer and eliminate injuries and fatalities across the Niagara region. I encourage anyone with specific concerns to utilize our traffic hotline, which will allow our traffic enforcement unit to conduct proactive patrols in areas of concern by calling the number on the slide or using the email provided. There's an online form on our public website as well. This is routinely shared on our social media platforms as well for public awareness. Actually, and I can say it's been put up twice this month, and I checked this morning, it was twice last month, so it's consistent. On the topic of social media, if you have access to social media but are not currently following us, I encourage you to do so. We provide education to the public, offer crime prevention tips, showcase the impressive work being done by our members, and when active calls are ongoing, which may impact residents in the area, notifications and updates are posted. The Police Services Board 2026-2029 strategic plan introduces a coordinated set of initiatives focused on prevention, early intervention, and stronger partnerships. At the center is an integrated crime prevention and harm reduction strategy, which brings together proactive enforcement and community-based prevention to address repeat harm more effectively. Supporting this are the neighborhood presence initiatives that strengthen visibility and trust, and the offender management and supervision platform, which enhances monitoring of repeat and high harm offenders. Our plan also includes strategies for emergency preparedness, road and public space safety, human trafficking prevention, youth engagement, mental health and addiction response, and gender-based violence prevention. Together, these initiatives form a practical, evidence-based roadmap to improve safety outcomes across Niagara. Here you'll see an example of a recent project we rolled out, hotspot mapping in downtown Niagara Falls. So this is where we piloted the project, and the presentation was due, but I can go on here. And I'm happy to report that we now have it in West Lincoln and all throughout Niagara. The red hexagonal overlays represent concentrated areas of social disorder or criminal activity. What makes this approach effective is that it's dynamic. The red hexagons identify priority patrol zones based on real-time data and recent activity. When officers are deployed to those areas and conduct directed patrol, the hexagon shifts from red to green. That color change visually represents proactive presence, It shows the area has been patrolled and addressed. This allows supervisors to quickly assess deployment coverage, ensure accountability, and adjust resources in real time. It also supports a more focused, intelligence-led approach rather than reactive policing alone. As part of our traffic and road safety strategy in the 2026-2029 strategic plan, we continue to focus on improving safety for both residents and visitors. That means strengthening education and enforcement in ways that make a real difference on our roads. A big part of this work is using data to guide our decisions. We look closely at collision trends, traffic patterns, and repeat problem areas to understand where the risks are and where we can have the greatest impact. The map on this slide shows how we analyze specific street segments over time. It helps us identify where collisions or unsafe driving behaviors are happening more often. Once we know where the concerns are, our traffic unit and frontline officers work together to respond. Sometimes that means targeted enforcement. Other times it means increased visibility or focused education. The goal is not just to respond to something after it happens, but prevent incidents before they actually occur. We also work closely with municipal and regional partners. If the data shows that road design, signage, or traffic flow may be contributing to issues, we share that information so engineering improvements can be considered. Overall, this is a balanced approach built around 4 areas: education, enforcement, engineering, and evidence. It's practical, data-informed, and focused on making our roads safer for everyone. This slide highlights our See Something, Say Something initiative, which is a core component of the Niagara Regional Police Service's Stop Hate Niagara campaign. As West Lincoln and the region continue to grow and diversify, this campaign helps reduce barriers for individuals who may be hesitant to report hate incidents or hate crimes. The pamphlets shown here are available in multiple languages and are distributed widely throughout the community, at places of worship, cultural centers, and local organizations, ensuring that accurate information is accessible to everyone in Niagara. The goal is simple: if you see something, say something. By increasing awareness, reducing stigma, and reducing language barriers, we're helping to ensure hate-related behavior does not go unreported. I'd also like to stress that the concept of seeing something and saying something applies to all criminal or suspicious activity. I'll say it again. If you see something concerning, report it. Don't assume someone already has. Police can't address issues we are not aware of, and our service uses crime analysis to shape our service delivery. Officers assigned to 8 districts actively participate in a variety of crime prevention and community engagement initiatives throughout the year, reflecting our commitment to visible and proactive policing in West Lincoln. You will often see our frontline members walking the beat where appropriate, connecting directly with business owners, residents, and community groups. These conversations build trust, strengthen partnerships, and provide valuable insight into local concerns. This year, 8 district officers participated in 2 Touch-a-Truck events, one at the Smithville Arena in the spring and another at Smithville Public School in the summer. These events provided an opportunity for families to meet our officers, explore police vehicles and equipment, and foster positive early interactions with police. Members of our core community-oriented response and engagement unit also delivered a presentation at St. Martin Elementary School, highlighting the role of law enforcement and the importance of collaboration with community partners in supporting youth and families. Additionally, officers provided a session to West Lincoln Library staff focused on effective communication strategies and police response to individuals experiencing mental health crises. This initiative supports safer outcomes through shared understanding and partnership. In October, our core unit once again engaged with youth at Fort Smithville, the local at-risk youth center, through informal drop-ins and structured discussions. Officers shared real-world insights about the impact of choices related to substance use, peer pressure, and online behavior, while also creating space for safe and open dialogue. Collectively, these initiatives reflect a broader commitment that policing in West Lincoln is not limited to responding to calls for service, but rooted in working collaboratively with the community that we serve. Thank you, and I think we're prepared to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you for a
Yeah, you're
very
welcome.
thorough presentation. I'm going to turn to members of council to see if there are any questions. Councilor Rayner?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Staff Sergeant Bourgeois, thank you for your presentation, sir. But you said something that tweaked me and has for the longest time, and I just wondering why we're doing it. And you said you expect the crime rate to continue to go up over the next 5 years, and the reason was there are more people coming to Niagara. And I can't understand why the Premier wants to bring all the criminals to Niagara. We're a nice community. Everything is under control at this point, but you've acknowledged the fact that the problems are only going to get worse, and they're only going to get worse because more people are coming. Chances are they're going to go to Niagara Falls, Welland, or St. Catharines, which is going to increase your problems. And why do we want to do this? I know you're not in the political realm to change that, but for the political people who are listening tonight, hopefully, you are the people that have foot on the ground. You're the people who see what's going on. You see what's going, you see what's happening, you see what the increase in population is doing to us as far as policing, endangering lives of people who enjoyed themselves here for many, many years. All of a sudden, people come in and do things that we're not used to. And hopefully, through your information that you've presented tonight, it's an eye-opening to the Premier that building and increasing housing in Niagara comes at a very steep cost, not only to the taxpayers for the policing, but all the problems associated and why we have to have the policing, which ruins the beautiful environment that we have in Niagara by doing that. So I appreciate you doing that. You brought some statistics. It's not just people speaking without information. You're here with facts. You've got a projection that doesn't look pretty down the road, and you also have a reason why it's not going to look pretty. The unfortunate thing is nobody down the road is listening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't think there was a question that you expected an answer to in that, but
No,
thank you.
it's a political question.
Thank
but-
you for your comments.
What can I say?
Okay. Your mic's on still? Councillor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We get feedback if we have multiple mics going. Yours is fine, but up here, it's problematic, so. Okay, so I'm just going to go, Councillor Chichop. Perhaps we'll end up going around. Councillor.
Thank you. I wasn't going to say anything because I thought that your presentation was very, very good. And I will take a different approach to, as population grows, things could change. Is there anything as a council that we should or could do to help police here? I love what you're saying, see it and say it, and those kind of things. I grew up in the heart of Hamilton and didn't know that I was in a high crime area as a kid because there was a police station across the street. And we had no problem talking, and we weren't afraid of the police. How can we help you help our population?
I think by continuing to support us, but it wasn't part of the presentation here, but I would say about every 6 weeks, we do have a meeting with Tim and Jessica, where we do get together and you know, obviously they're with bylaw, they share their concerns with us so that, you know, there are members of the public reporting things to them. And again, with the see something, say something concept, we're not aware, but you know, through that dialogue, we learn of it, and then vice versa, we do share things that perhaps they're not aware of, particularly in respect to upcoming initiatives that we're doing, which we do have some forthcoming probably in the next few weeks.
Okay, thank you.
And it would
Thank you
appear
for
the chief
question
has
and the
something to
answer,
say.
and I see that Chief Forty has moved into the hot spot, so perhaps he's going to add to that.
Thank you, Your Worship. And if I could, I'd like to try to address your answer, but it does dovetail on to the previous comments with respect to some of the emerging issues. One of the things that law enforcement officers and agencies are experiencing across our province and across the country more broadly is the intersection between mental health and addiction. And there is an increasing workload with respect to the complex nature of that challenge. So your question was, what can politicians do to help? I think to continue to shine a light on the intersection between addiction and mental health, so that all elected officials across the country at the different levels of government who have the ability to apply funding and monies to try to identify solutions would be helpful. Thank you for your question.
Thank you for that, Chief. Yes, I understand your plight, and I understand how things have evolved over the years. But I'd like to get it to a place where we do have a great community, but we also have to pay attention, because we have to help the police, and our community cannot be afraid of you, because you're there to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You might as well just stay there, Chief. Or maybe you need your backup. We'll see what happens. But Councilor Ryder, do you have a question? I'm sure.
Sure. Thank you,
Go
Madam
ahead.
Mayor. To you, to the presenters and everybody who came, honestly, thank you guys so much. It means a lot to our community. When I first came on in 2018, one of the big things we really worked towards in that term was trying to build a better relationship and have you guys a little bit more aware of how West Lincoln operates. And one of the issues we have then that we still have now definitely is around traffic. We got speeding and aggressive driving, and every municipality has that. But I would like to know, on a positive note, that even since 2018, we have seen, I've heard from residents, definitely more positive feedback and seeing more of your presence in our community, and they certainly want more than what we have there. And not that you guys are doing anything wrong necessarily. I obviously can't be everywhere at once, but there is notice that you guys are more present, and that's exceptional, and hopefully we can keep working towards that. I guess the question, or more or less putting the thought out there, Madam Mayor, through you, and maybe this just goes right to the Chief, if he even wishes to comment. I always like to make a point of mentioning this, is I don't know, I'm pretty sure your capital plan probably doesn't include this yet, but I know my hope for our community is at some point we're able to see a detachment closer to our community. Do you foresee, through you, Madam Mayor, to any member of the police force here, foresee that in the next 20 or 30 years, if that's even fair to put a time frame on it? Is that a realistic possibility? Because I know that would go a long way as our community grows. We can't get the toothpaste back in the bottle there, right? Toothpaste back in the bottle. So it's one of those things where as we grow, we're going to have those, higher demand in terms of you guys being able to respond to those calls quicker, and hopefully having more of a presence in the community will contribute to that.
Thank you for your question, through you, your Mayor. We have actually retained a consultant to come in and help us prepare a master facility plan. As we've been discussing, we do project growth, and one of the indicators of an effective police organization is a quick response time, a 7-minute response time, or a 10-minute response time in a more urban setting. So the only way to achieve that as population increases is to have your officers positioned either in a workspace close by, or having directed patrols, which is one of the things we're hoping to achieve with our hotspot mapping. So I think that is a really good question. It's something that I know the board and I have spoken about. We're trying to not be reactive and simply repair our buildings. We are trying to develop a long-term strategy so that we're building a plan and solutions 15, 20 years out.
Perfect. Thank you. If I could do one more follow-up.
Go ahead.
Somebody's phone's going there. Okay. And I'm just going to mention of this because I love the Chief to talk about it for those in our community who might not know about it. But I've recently, in the last few months, there have been appointed to the new Niagara Regional Police Foundation Board. And I wonder if the Chief would mind actually just speaking on behalf of the board there, some of the initiatives that we're hoping to roll out as far as dealing with the very things of trying to change the messaging and improve the relations in the communities around policing and the groups that associate with. So would you mind just talking a little bit about that? Some capacity. Sorry, I probably should have given you a heads up about that.
Probably you should have, but go
I
ahead,
figured
Chief.
it
The best of
seems like a
you.
great opportunity just to kind of give a little plug for something that's brand new and it's going to have a really big impact in Niagara in the future.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. As the councilor references, we've recently created a foundation in Niagara, a police foundation. We have constituted a board of directors. We have just recently secured a bank account and the ability to start receiving monies. I anticipate over the next 2 or 3 months, we will engage in a fundraising campaign. And our our hope is that we will identify gaps in service delivery where there's either no provincial or federal funding, and there's an identified need, or there are youth at risk that we can support. So it's, as the councillor referenced, it's very early days. We are in the throes of, I'm meeting with a visioning expert to try to help frame up the long-term vision for the foundation, but it's something that I hope will really enhance, our service delivery indirectly by filling in gaps that typically the police try to solve, but it's not a typical traditional police function.
Thank you for that. Are
Thank
you finished, Councillor?
I am, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate that.
And thank you, Chief, for that answer. Councillor Trombetta.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks, gentlemen, for your presentation, everybody who came along with them. I just want to highlight, Chief, that, we did have an issue in our ward, and Staff Sergeant Bourgeois did help me immensely with that, because we did get some issues with some residents out there. And, I reached out to him in his timely manner to get back to me. It was a private number, which I wasn't going to answer because I thought it was something else, a fraud department, but it was a private number, and I didn't answer that day. But I just want to say he did respond in a timely manner, and then did follow up with me in regards to once there was a conviction, which I did relay the message to the residents that were dealing with that issue. So we've noticed that, at least I've noticed, that there has been a bit of a change, and I guess through our previous meetings, I heard us loud out here as a committee that we weren't getting a lot of service. People weren't getting the need that they do need. And I've seen that it has changed so far. I still would like to see the old days where the patrol guys walking downtown on foot, but I don't know if that'll come. But those were the days of West Lincoln. But, things are moving. I do see some more presence in the rural area, especially we are on the border of Hamilton and Dunnville, which is way, way further areas. So I did see some vehicles cruising along, and I hope that continues. And, I just want to say thanks, to Staff Sergeant Bourgeois for getting back to me, and that did help, especially with the residents dealing with that wave of crime that was happening in the area. So, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Bradrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much for your presentation. Certainly very informative to hear the information and a reminder about the services that you do provide over and above that traditional, policing that has changed vastly, I'm sure, through your shorter career and your, I am assuming, longer career. Great to see the use of the data that really helps guide your policing. I did have a question in regards to West Lincoln having such a long shared border with Hamilton. If you could, speak just a little bit about the communication between your force and Hamilton, and how there's probably some crossover, and how that relationship works for the benefit of our community.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Sure. I'll talk.
So our detective office is in regular contact with their counterpart on the other side of the border. We do actively share information as well in live situations too. Fortunately, it didn't happen in West Lincoln, but there was a major incident that happened in Grimsby earlier this year. The position of our K-9 unit at the time was nowhere near here. Actually, they were actively dealing with a K-9 track in Fort Erie at the time. I'm sure you can appreciate how long of a drive that would be. We called upon their K-9 unit, and they were there within seconds. And I actually think, not that it's a policing issue, Hamilton EMS actually responded to it because it happened right at the border. So not only for past situations and investigative purposes are we continually sharing information, but in the live moment for these top tier calls, it happens instantly.
Amazing. Those Grimsby incidences are definitely ones that came to mind during your presentation, and knowing that we also have, that long shared border was, it had kind of generated my question. So thank you very much for that.
But before I go to the next councillor, further to that, is that also true of Haldeman? Because, we have that other border with another region as well. Are you in contact? Because, of course, our outlying areas, Case Trevelle and beyond, also we deal with the Haldeman border, so.
I can share that our detective office is. I fortunately can't think of a major incident off the top of
No,
my
I don't have
head.
one on the top of my head either. I'm just hoping
I prefer
that.
not to, but yes, no, for belated investigations, break-and-enters, thefts from automobiles, they are in contact with Haldeman
Okay.
OPP's Detective Bureau.
Good, thank you for that. And I see, Chief, you've moved up to the mic, so do you want to add to that as well?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I'll provide some brief comments, and then with your permission, I'll invite Mario
I saw that
Lagutaria
we had a new person at the Horseshoe at the other side there, so
just
that's good.
to discuss one thing that I think is fairly
Okay,
interesting.
thank you.
So in addition to the day-to-day work of our CIB, we're also part of several joint force operations with the OPP. That includes Hamilton. And I think tomorrow, actually, you're going to see a press release come out on a project called Project Road King. And that is a multi-jurisdictional investigation with ourselves, Hamilton, the RCMP.
So breaking news right here.
It's tomorrow, yeah. It's coming out tomorrow. I think 7 a.m. So I hope I'm not going to be in trouble from our corporate communications person.
Well, you're not giving full disclosure on any details or anything, so you're
But
probably okay.
we do work closely, and in addition to that, one of the things that we did this year as part of our budget process, and the mayor would be aware of this, is we created an emergency planning department to try to position ourselves to deal with any kind of significant national or international issue. And this was done in advance of matters relating to the United States, so we were very well positioned once things changed. But as a result of that, we started doing some tabletops to prepare for those scenarios, and maybe one of them speaks to exactly the scenario that you just referenced. So that's why I thought it might be helpful for the council to hear from Mario with respect to that.
Okay, thank you.
So the floor is yours, please go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yeah, as the chief referenced, so, I mean, we've heard a lot about the Community Safety Policing Act, a lot of different requirements, but I will say that in light of all that, there's been so much more communication. And the world's so small when you're looking at how technology brings us together. So we are very intentional about things that we do. So tabletop exercise is absolutely one of them. Post-incident, we will get together with our counterparts and go through what worked, what didn't. There's a lot of specialty services that I think as a community, we hope we never need to use. And we have them all with Niagara, but we don't have endless resources, human resources. So we have excellent working relationships with our counterpart agencies to come over and to assist as well when needed. We'll look at the hospital for one specific situation. West Lincoln Memorial is Hamilton Health Sciences, but there was a tabletop exercise recently where we brought in everybody you can think of should a certain situation arise, to really work through the logistics, focusing on communication, of course, right? When there's any gap in communication, unfortunately, that's where usually we stumble. And with Hamilton Health Sciences involved, different law enforcement agencies, the Niagara Health System actually joined as well to be part of that, to see it firsthand, and again, to look at rollout. So, I mean, we really do think of, I mean, it's unfortunate that we have to think of the worst possible situations, but that's in essence what we plan for. And that's just a really great example, especially the fact that Grimsby in this area is really unique with the Hamilton Health Sciences piece, to have an excellent working relationship with our counterparts on the other side, Hamilton and OPP Haldeman. It's ultra important for sure. You know, touch wood, nothing happens, but we will be prepared.
You're prepared.
Yes.
And that's the important part at this point. Thank you very much for that
Yeah,
information.
it's great to hear about those broader partnerships. Thank you very much.
Anything further, Councillor? Okay. Councillor
Through you, Madam
Maychak,
Mayor.
thank you for
to-
waiting.
No, appreciate that. Question the chief and the staff sergeant. First of all, I just want to thank you for your fine service. I think you do an outstanding job. I'm just curious, though, you kind of touched on it in terms of emerging trends, things that really concern you at this time. What are you seeing and what are they? And then on the opposite end of the scale, are you seeing a decline in certain type of crimes that you're quite proud of in terms of less crime?
Through you, Mayor, that's a great question. Lots of things keep me up at night. I think the intersection, as I referenced earlier, the intersection between mental health and addiction is a challenge. we know we're expensive, and we are the last resort for many calls for service, and many of those calls for service are health-related. So to me, that is something that I would love to see either another entity created to deal with persons suffering from mental health. I would like to see provincial or federal funding to get people out of the lifestyle. You know, what saddens me sometimes is when we have multiple return calls for service to deal with the same people with the same issue. And I would like to see a pathway out for vulnerable people, because once our time is not committed to that, we can really engage in meaningful, proactive, community-centric policing, which is really what we want to do. Engage with the community, be partners with the community, find common solutions with the community. You know, we live here, we work here, we play here too. We want it to be a great place to raise our families, and I think that's my answer to your question. What we're doing better, the second part of your question, is I think as a service, we have realized the importance of working with the community. You know, we work with you. And thankfully, we've got tremendous support from elected officials. We've got a supportive police board. Our senior executive team we're in alignment. So I really think we are on the right path, and I'm thankful for that.
Thank you. Okay, well, we've taken a lot of your time, but you've provided a lot of really good, solid information and answered your questions. Our two female guests back there, you didn't get to say anything. Is there anything that you wanted as the chair or as staff person to add to any of the conversation? No?
I think they covered, not I think, they covered it.
They did it well enough for your liking? That's good.
Yes, that's all I think.
Okay, well, thank you all very much for being here and for providing that information. I know that it was a while for us to get you lined up when you were able to attend our meeting, but I do appreciate that you've taken the time to come to West Lincoln, all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Thank you so much again. Thank you. Okay, we have another delegation this evening. Dave Bilsma, presentation regarding previous council direction, 7.2 on our agenda. Kevin will help.
I know.
Good to see some.
Yeah, it's interesting to be back. A lot of familiar faces. Your Worship and Council, I'd like to address an outstanding issue that I believe to be, or will be, an injustice if it's left unrectified. 5 of the 7 current members of this council will remember an Integrity Commissioner's report that was brought forward towards the end of the previous term of council regarding a complaint brought forward against Councillor Harold Jonker. Essentially, the complaint dealt with the councillor's involvement in the trucker convoy and protest February of 2022 in Ottawa. When the report came back to council from the Integrity Commissioner, I challenged a particular designation that was used to describe the events that took place, specifically the description that they were illegal protests. I asked for the clarification when the report came, asking by what standard they were deemed illegal. There was no clear response from the Integrity Commissioner at that time, simply to say that public opinion or the media had determined they were. Certainly, no official legal position was cited by the Integrity Commissioner. I went on to challenge the Integrity Commissioner, I believe it was John Mascarin, that if it was determined that the protests were in fact inside the boundaries of legitimate civil action, would or could this report be amended to reflect that there was no cause to proceed with a complaint. He did not have an answer for that outcome at the time and reiterated that it was widely accepted as an illegal protest. And you can access the archives, I guess, if you want to see that conversation again. I'm here tonight to inform you of a few legal matters that have gone to court and have been settled. The courts have determined that the government was indeed out of place, ordering the protests illegal and invoking the Emergencies Act to end them. In fact, the government appealed the matter, and the Federal Court of Appeal has agreed with the first court ruling, thus ending the dispute. This event was even reported by the CBC, and I've included a link in this, which I'll leave with you, Madam Mayor, at the end of this. At the end of January, so at the end of last month, further, Harold Jonker also faced charges which were brought to court, and there again, in an expeditious deliberation, he was declared not guilty, and no appeal was even sought. Mayor and Council, it is a rare thing to be able to correct an injustice in a meaningful timeline. Often the parties are long past or point is moot. The Integrity Commission can only recommend a 3-day suspension as a maximum penalty for an infraction. Council had decided to go far above this and approved a 30-day or a 6-week suspension for what now is determined to be a legitimate civil action. I call upon you simply to restore retroactively the 27 days that the Council approved beyond the Integrity Commissioner's maximum to former Councillor Jonker. I'm not going to wax eloquent or shame anyone. It is simple. It is not onerous, but it is right. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you for being here.
And for the record, I'm Dave Bilsma, 5313 16 Road.
We don't do that anymore. We could have asked for your name, but I figured everybody knew who you were anyway, and I did introduce you as that.
Yeah,
but we don't give an address anymore, in spite of the fact that you've done that, so that's fine.
Interesting.
So I'm going to ask if there are any questions from members of council. Okay. Well, seeing none, there is one point that I do want to make on behalf of the residents who might be watching this. And so thank you, former Mayor Bilsma, for your presentation this evening. But for clarity of the residents who might not be aware of the situation, there was a distinction between the legal affair that went on and of course, what happened here. So the presentation that we just heard was related to a decision of the previous council, and you did allude to that, made in 2022. I'd like to state for the record that a municipality must have a code of conduct. So that's a basic principle. And we also must have an independent integrity commissioner. So those are things that are key roles of the integrity commissioner, to provide education and or advice to either council as a whole or to individual councillors when requested. And additionally, to independently investigate and adjudicate complaints regarding any and all perceived code of conduct violations. So I want to point out that the code of conduct violation that was alleged was not brought forward by any members of this council or the council as a whole. It came from members of the public. And so it was members of the public who raised it to the Integrity Commissioner, who followed through appropriately. And what this council did in a 5-2 decision was to follow the advice and the direction of the Integrity Commissioner in his written and in his verbal reports to us. So I think that point, we leave this for now. I want people to understand that there were two separate issues. I appreciate your point of view, but at this point in time, I think we'll just accept, for information purposes, your delegation, and we'll leave it for that for this evening. So thank you.
Madam Mayor, thank you for the opportunity. I was not here to debate, just
No,
simply make a
nor were we,
presentation.
nor were we.
Yeah.
And my clarification purely was for the members who might be watching, who in some cases perhaps didn't even live here in 2022. So thank you for being here.
No problem. And I will leave my presentation with the clerk.
Thank you. And I'm glad you were here for the police presentation, actually.
Yeah,
That's a big
that was
update for
interesting,
you
too.
from the past, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on in our agenda then, that takes us, I think, Councillor Witteveen, to your report.
The seat's still warm.
I bet. There've been a lot of people in and out, but mostly somebody's been sitting in that one.
So anyways, good evening, Mayor, members of council, staff, and members of the public. I'd like to start by giving you an update on our Public Health Committee meeting that we've had in January. And I bring items forward that I believe are relevant from the region to West Lincoln. So in January, we had a presentation on Niagara Respite Committee, a volunteer-based a group out of Niagara region residents who work is informed by professional expertise, lived experience, consultation, research, and system-level examination. Their goal is to strengthen respite options as a foundational component of an effective home and community care system. And because this is population, the Niagara reality is that we have an overall population in 2021 of about 477,000 people, and 111,000 of those residents were 65 and older, which is significantly above the provincial average and among the highest age proportions in Ontario. So this aging trend correlates with higher demand for home-based supports and long-term care services, placing pressure on unpaid caregivers and family members. At the same time, residents with significant complex health needs are increasingly being encouraged to require to age in place. So home modifications to reduce risk and improve safety in the home support services such as personal care, household assistance, transportation, meal prep, and health services are required. And our recreation, so also the connection here is, our community connection to maintain social, emotional, and mental well-being are very important to the caregiver and the resident. And we have an opportunity to provide some of these essential services to our long-standing residents. So challenges that the residents can get between 9 and 12 hours of care from a PSW per week is not enough in some cases. So with adequate respite options, caregivers experience burnout and their own declining health with extra pressures. So in a considered view by the Niagara Respite Committee a coordinated respite strategy embedded in early home-based care can contribute to better health outcomes, improve caregiver resilience, and effective use of healthcare resources, and help shift healthcare cost curve in a positive, stable direction. So I just kind of put in the a website address in there. But part of this, I went to the just kind of I guess a little side here on the family day and ran into one of our residents, and they brought to my attention that they have a spouse that has mobility disability, and how difficult it is for him to get his wife to appointments and things like that, and that's kind of where I resonated with this report this evening, and I think and I go to our community center and see the programs that are going on, and to draw those people that to get them out of their homes and into our community. I know we're working. You guys are all working very hard to develop. We'll call it multi-age programs at the community center, and I think we're going in the right direction, and I just think that's why I've kind of brought this up for enlightenment this evening. So, and then kind of leading into actually the police chief here. So in January, we had 2 community partners open up recovery centers, one being Rose City Recovery, and their mission statement is, so they're committed to help individuals achieve long-lasting recovery and mental wellness through evidence-based therapies and compassionate care. And a second center was the Agape Recovery, which provides intensive addiction recovery service for men and women while partnering with organizations that offer counseling, pastoral care, and family supports as part of the coordinated care plan. And I think it's great to see the community rise up and and help their residents, support them in these issues. So that was a kind of a nice lead-in after the police chief did say, his greatest challenge is, mental health and addiction. So it's good to see community partners stepping up to fill some of those needs in the community. And on the Public Works Committee, the region has started a Niagara Regional Transportation Master Plan 2051 to coincide with a growth plan that was completed a few years back. The process will examine long-term plans for roads, goods movement, and active transportation with infrastructure that supports future transit access, aligning with growth forecast and land use planning. Phase 1 will identify problems and opportunities, and Phase 2 will identify and evaluate the alternative solution. So public consultation is required in each one of these phases, starting this spring to be completed in the fall of 2027 with Phase 2 deliverable. So I encourage the councillors to attend these open houses and express your concerns and offer solutions as we, again, are working on a number of, we'll say, our transportation, some of our transportation plans as the around our communities, and hopefully we can express the linkages with some of what's going on at the region for the long term. So, and again, I just wanted to finish saying I had the opportunity to go to the community center on Family Day. It was great to see many people out there enjoying all the events of the day. It was just great to and fellow councillors. I didn't come back for the hockey game in the afternoon, but did enjoy the morning highlights. So if you have any questions, I'm gladly answer them for you. Thank you.
Thank you. So are there any questions of Councillor Woodavine? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through to the regional councillor, thank you for your presentation, sir. Question is the regional budget been confirmed now? I had a letter from Gail saying that he has to review the budget, or has he already reviewed the budget? Everything's in the past tense?
On the 12th. It passed on the 12th. So go ahead, but I actually have one or two sentences in my report about that as well.
All right, I just wanted to note, last year, our regional councillor supported, I asked them last year 9.6%, this year it was 6.3. Did you support a 6.3 increase percent for the region?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, I did. I supported the budget, yes.
I just find it difficult and frustrating, and I'm sure you've witnessed what we went through a couple of weeks ago to bring this budget down to 1.26. You've supported two budgets in the last 2 years that are 15.9, almost 16%.
This is not an opportunity to throw barbs.
No, I'm just wanting to make sure that the public understands that this council works very hard to try to reduce the budget, and our regional councillor is whanging us right between the eyes.
Well, okay.
But anyways, thank you.
I'm going to stop you with that.
Well, I am done.
I'm glad, because that's quite offensive, actually.
Well,
and let me just
16%
say,
is
we've just
very
had a
difficult,
visit
Madam Mayor.
from. Let me say, we've just had a visit from the police. Of that 6.3%, 4.4% was the police budget.
Sure.
Do you realize that?
Yeah, I realize that, but the
So
regional
none
council
of
could have
us-
said no to 4.4 and tried to get it further down, like this council tried to get our taxes
Well,
down.
there's a
They
big,
didn't work very hard, obviously.
we worked long and hard, but thank you for the comments. No more further comments about that. Thank you very much.
I don't have
Councillor
any comments
Riley,
about that.
something to say, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. It's on? Oh, his off, okay. Deputy Councillor Woodavine, thank you for your monthly report. I just wanted to know if you could comment a little bit on, from what I've recently learned about that the garbage collection has now been extended, the current contractor has gotten a 1-year extension. Would you be able to kind of give a little bit more information behind that? We had a report come to council not so long ago by staff because the region reached out to ask for the different types of services we considered, because we thought it was going to an RFP, and to my understanding, that's now been given an extra year of life, so I thought maybe that might be worth just talking a little bit about that, if you could.
To you, Madam Mayor, yes, in the waste management, there's been a contract extension of 1 year, and I guess there was an option in the contract, and so we opted for it because it gave us predictability on the cost of service. And we also knew that vehicles have a life expectancy, and this would fall within the qualifications of the contractor being able to maintain the fleet for the length of I believe it went like 10 years on the life of a vehicle. So it gives them predictability to know they get an extra year, and they will start being proactive to keep equipment in good shape versus what we experienced from our last contract where we had lots of equipment failures.
Trucks breaking down.
And as we extended, but it was a decision to take the extension for cost predictability, seeing other communities pricing out waste management contracts and seeing, large increases. So this is part of decisions to be fiscally responsible.
Okay, appreciate that, yeah. And hopefully when that comes back around, I guess it'll be the next term of council that I'll have to, weigh in on that. Hopefully they can engage with municipalities a little bit sooner as well. So.
And I think that there's still, if I'm correct, and we have the chair of Public Works with us, so of course he'd be in the know, but we are still taking input from municipalities in terms of looking towards the next contract. Because, right now,
Yes.
this one hadn't been completed, right? So they were looking well in advance of what we wanted. So I think the input that we offered and that our staff are still looking at is still very valuable.
Perfect, yeah.
So,
We want
yeah.
to make sure that that's still captured. Thank you.
This side of the table, nobody? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Witteveen. Okay, so that takes us to confirmation of minutes, and Councillor Trombetta, you have the council minutes from January 26th.
Yes, 1 second, ma'am. Moved by myself that the minutes relating to the January 26, 2026 council meeting and the recommendations contained therein be accepted.
Thank you. And someone to second those minutes? Councillor Chichok. Are there any questions or comments regarding those minutes? And seeing none, Mr. Clerk?
My vote did not come up, Madam.
It didn't come up?
So,
Councillor Chichok? Okay.
I'm working to remedy that momentarily.
Okay, thank you. Did yours not come up either, Councillor?
Yay or nay? Sure, why not?
Support.
Okay.
There was one, it went off.
Okay, so that passes, taking us to 9.2 on our agenda. Public meeting under the Planning Act, the minutes February 9th, 2026. Councillor Chichok, you have those.
Thank you. Sorry, Madam Mayor, I'm still trying to get my item up. Moved by myself that minutes related to the February 13th, 2026 public meeting be accepted.
And someone to second those minutes, please. Councillor Maychak, thank you. Are there any questions or comments about the public meeting minutes? Okay, seeing none, call for the vote. No. Mike can't vote on that anyway because he wasn't at the public meeting, right? Can he vote? He can vote if he's read the minutes.
He said I can.
If he's read the minutes, the clerk has said that he can vote.
I'm good.
Yeah, I guess we're not changing the recommendation, just the minutes. Councillor Chichok, how are you doing?
Hold on, watch it,
Is
just
it
came
coming?
up.
Wow,
Just
we got it.
Look at that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right. Now we all agree.
Good. So the next item on our agenda this evening is communications, which is another contentious issue right now. So I will just start by saying that at noon hour on Thursday, we did receive a letter from Chair Gale. It was dated February 5th, although it did not come till noon hour on the 19th. And it came in combination with the other letter that was a letter from Chair Gale going to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Rob Flack, with his suggestions as to the need for governance reform in Niagara. And so I did send you those copies of the letters, and you have those. I'd like to just today open comments, an opportunity for you to comment on what you've already seen. I gave that brief description so members of the public who happen to be watching will know what it is that you're commenting on, if you choose to do so. I did put together a draft response from our municipality, from myself, because the mayors were asked to respond, but I wouldn't do so without first having this meeting this evening. And so my comments, I have a copy for you, but they're still subject to change if need be. So you're usually on the other end. Let's start with you, Councillor Maychak. Do you have any comments either way about anything that's gone on? There's been more in the newspaper and on social media than there's anything else.
Through you, Madam Mayor, having lived through pre and then amalgamation and post-amalgamation, I'll just make some personal comments. First and foremost, bigger isn't better. It becomes more bureaucratic. It becomes more difficult for the residents. The one thing that I've been so impressed sitting here for the last 2 years is being able to call staff, get immediate results, get things addressed quickly, and get them done. In a large municipality, unfortunately, that doesn't happen. There's many more layers. Also, it's not just the governance, it's how it impacts staff. Some talented staff might not end up in the position that they should be, or could end up in a lower position or no position at all. That is concerning because you lose some talent, and losing talent results in a community that doesn't react to the residents as quickly or as efficiently. So my general comment is I don't agree with amalgamation. I don't think it's in the best interest of West Lincoln. I don't think it's in the best interest of the people. And if it is forced upon us, of course, we'll do our best to make it happen, but be fluent. In saying that, it is a long process that needs to be strategic and done properly. And if it's done that way, I still don't think it's as effective, but it needs a lot of thought and a lot of planning, and it needs to be done right, or I think you're going to see a lot of residents not happy with the end result.
Thank you. Councillor Bradrick.
I do have a lot to say about it.
Please
However,
do. Please do.
I will keep my comments short. I don't support any kind of amalgamation. I think our community has its own history, identity, and its own way of doing things. You know, decisions are made close to people's homes by people who understand local issues. Amalgamation would move decision-making out of our residential area and away from our own local voice. There hasn't been any public consultation. We don't really even know what it's going to be, or is it going to be, and what is the clear financial information on what this is going to look like. Is there going to be any type of cost savings? Because certainly in cases in the past, in our own province, that has been shown numerous times to not be the case. So, you know, what does that look like for Niagara? And before any major decisions are made, the residents deserve to have the facts in front of them and to have the opportunity for that real discussion and that real opportunity to be heard. You know, we are all looking for cost savings, as we saw during our budget process. Every councillor came forward with ways to look for costs and cost savings and a way to bring home that almost historical low residential tax increase for our community. So we're open to looking for further, you know, cost savings for our residents, and that's where we should be starting.
Thank you very much. Councillor Trombetta.
Well, you know how I feel.
I do, but I want you to say.
I think everybody knows how I feel. I think when this came to us back in the day, I knew it was a bad idea back in the day when the talks were happening. And I was opposed to it back then. I didn't attend it back then, nor do I want to do it now. Actually, it's funny. We all just received an email from a constituent opposing it. It just came right on to my screen right now.
I've had several.
They're just beeping right now because I guess we're listening and talking to us. Yeah, you know, I have lived in West Lincoln my whole life. You know, a lot of people that have visited me in West Lincoln before used to say, "No, I can never live in West Lincoln. I want Hamilton, I want Hamilton." Fast forward 47 years, and everybody's saying, "I don't want to live in Hamilton, I want West Lincoln." And if this comes, it changes us to Hamilton, and that's nothing that I want. All of Niagara region, it's not just West Lincoln, we fall under that. I think more from the constituents, to force them upon constituents without having their say, maybe a referendum's needed, I don't know. Something's got to happen for them to voice their opinion, and instead of this being forced on us. I don't want to lose our identity of West Lincoln. I believe that we've kept West Lincoln, and with your leadership and the leadership of council here, and with the help of good staff, that we've kept West Lincoln. It's a place where people want to live. You hear it all the time. And people are wanting to come live here, work here. And I think if this comes down, again, it will not be by my vote, nor will I attend. I've said that very clear. If this does come down the pipe, I think it's going to ruin the landscape of Niagara forever. I think people's taxes are going to go up. I think we're going to get nothing but things we don't want that are in other municipalities. So, you know how I feel? I believe, a vote should go to the public. If anything, let them have some weight in on something, but I will say no, 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 and no. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm trying to make some notes here.
Want me to start the other way if you're still?
No, I can go.
You good? Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. Oh, is he ready to go? It's okay. I guess the first thing I'd like to mention is more of a clarity question. I don't know if it's fair to ask you, Madam Mayor. But does Chair Gale even have the authority to circumvent the whole regional council to even begin conversations or sending letters? I guess I just have to understand where this came from. I'm just wondering, is he acting outside of his authority? Are you aware of?
I know that he was appointed by the province. That's all I know.
Okay.
So, and I do know that the province, at the last go-round, when we were before the standing committee, after that period of time, indicated that they would not enforce anything. They were not going to force something on any region, and that it would be from the region's perspective that they would respond. So they were looking for it to be members of regional council or municipalities within Niagara to say, this is what we want. So I think that he has taken it upon himself. It certainly has not been discussed at regional council. The first meeting will be this Thursday. I think that Councillor Woodabine would attest to the fact that the letters came to mayors, but not to other regional councillors. And so certainly it's something that he's done. But I have no idea what, other than he was appointed by the province. Okay. That's all I know.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand if
we're all trying to
been given
understand
special
many things.
powers or whatever,
No,
if he's
there's
acting
nothing-
within them or outside of them.
No.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's, I don't know, like, as you mentioned, even, just a few short years ago after they were kind of reviewing everything, the premier mentioned in so many other words how, okay, we're going to let this go. These guys are running it efficiently and better than I think we expected, and now here we are. And again, I think the timing is so fascinating because we're 2 months away before the election window opens up. And even if this was something that anybody was interested in, how do you facilitate, how do you organize enough information and get all the parts moving in the right amount of speed that be required to get things done that we need to be done? I don't know. There's something very suspicious about all that. But I will note for the record, I know historically, to the best of our knowledge, amalgamations don't save money. I know even if I could speak briefly about the transit board and that amalgamated service, that it's grown exponentially since we first took it on. And there's lots of different moving parts when you have to deal with municipalities, not just one entity, but all these different entities within these different organizations. Like this could take years, and they kind of just come up with this idea at the kitchen sink and run with it. I don't know. I'm very concerned. I've advocated, we've all advocated for more shared service opportunities, other sharing resources, things that actually save money. I guess, my, not so much question, but in trying to understand if the mandate from the province to the region or wherever is representation reduction, I guess, one thing I would be open to is maybe a slight reduction in terms of representation on the smaller local levels if one or two positions or 3 positions can be removed. I know Lincoln removed 2 counselors. They changed their dynamic thing. I think we're past the window to even have that conversation. I think that has to be something that's taken later. But I think there's other areas. If Ford has expressed several times that he feels we're overrepresented in Niagara, if a change in representation, if you wanted to give us a hard number that you want us to work with, would meet that satisfaction, then I think that's a different conversation we can have, because I think protecting our municipality at all costs needs to be prioritized. We hear the concerns around and some feedback for residents about our identity, but and one resident mentioned they would support amalgamations if it ensured that there was actually going to be savings. And I think the problem is we don't want to see property taxes climb. And I think if we do amalgamate, we're going to see the more populous areas that are going to basically siphon the money. We're going to see less resource invested back in our community. And that impacts not just the urban area. Our urban area is very small in comparison to some of our neighbors, but our rural residents, our agricultural community will see nothing. They will suffer the hardest out of everybody. And so I just think the timing of this, it's not ever, I guess, a situation that, we thought the conversation was at least done for now, and now it's being brought up at the, past the 11th hour here, and I really don't know how anybody could get on board with it at this point without doing their due diligence, ensuring that it's going to be successful, at the same time actually engaging with the community. And as you mentioned, Madam Mayor, you got a letter that's dated differently than when it was originally sent to you, and whether that was a clerical error or it's just when they originally started writing the letter and when they decided to send it out. It feels like everything's rushed, and I can assure you if they go about this the way they've gone about getting this information out, the whole thing is going to end up a disaster, and it's going to be like Peel, where they had to back out of that. And again, who ends up footing the bill? To taxpayers, and so we end up into a bigger mess. But I don't know, from my understanding in some of the amalgamation stuff I've seen, property taxes can double, if not triple. So if people are already struggling to pay bills now, how are they going to be able to pay bills after 5 years down the road in an amalgamated community?
So what you're saying, Councillor, and all the questions you've asked are the same questions that we're all asking.
Yeah, no,
So,
but
well,
I
thank you for
strongly
that input.
oppose
I
this.
certainly understand that. Councillor Chichok, you've also lived through amalgamations.
I've lived through 3 of them, Your Worship, and I have the scars to tell the tale. This is a red herring if we're looking for cost savings. It just doesn't happen. The timing can't be worse, and the worry about it would be the leveling of service levels across a number of municipalities, regardless of how any future steps are taken towards a consolidation, I'll call it, because I've heard it called that. But we would have to have a service level that would have to be reached. Ours might be lower than the people we would be joined with forcibly or by consensus. And that always comes out costing more, as unions want the highest rate and as the service levels are always taken to the highest. In Toronto, some areas had two per week garbage collection. Guess what? A lot of people wanted 2 times a week garbage collection. And it was that for several years after amalgamation. This is not about cost savings. Service levels will have to be leveled, but more importantly, systems will not be able to handle it. Tax systems, billing systems, clerk systems, supportive systems, even the paperwork will not be the same. So we'll be independent, or we'll have to at some point over time, over a long period of time, as has already been said, will have to be transitioned to a new system, which will mean that the transition team, like I'm sure Councillor Maychuk and myself, worked on transitions for years after amalgamations took place. Preparing, doing the transition, and hoping that when you push the button the day after, something was going to light up. Tax rates will have to be blended, and that in and of itself will either be cosmetic or somehow we'll have to figure out what the new impact to the residents of West Lincoln are. Those are just the practicalities. It's just ahead of a regular election, so no one will understand where or who they vote for and who they would go and talk to. We are the door, as has been said by many a premier in the past, including this one, that we are the door to the community, and we take and deliver services that are there that they can see. So if during the kind of social and economic crisis that we're in, that gets disrupted, and the police chief and his staff today saying that mental illness and other societal problems are a problem, where are these people going to go to direct their questions? We've now taken away one other step. I will reiterate a comment already made, because bigger isn't better. Look at Toronto and Hamilton. Today, their problems are bigger, more costly, take longer to resolve. Tiny houses, gosh, I've heard about those for so long, I almost want to buy one. You know, these things take forever for the decisions to be made, and when they're made, they're not always made correctly. And then everybody just complains about the decision that was made and doesn't get on with the resolve of the problem. So I'm not exactly sure what we'll be hearing when consolidation occurs. And I could go on forever. I could go on for certainly hours. But those are just some of the issues that are going to face the practical part of our employees. And yeah, they will find that they are offered jobs or will have to reapply, but the uncertainty will certainly disrupt what we have as a dedicated staff that serve the people of West Lincoln and are ready to face the people of West Lincoln of the future. And everyone knows, and I have heard, that we are the future. We will be bigger than our two colleagues, Lincoln and Grimsby, down below. And I don't know that they're ready or their staff are ready to help us grow at the speed that we are going to grow. So, and are we going to rip their reserves so that we can have the funding so we can put in infrastructure and grow quicker? I'm not sure that that will make the taxpayer of those communities feel very good. But yet in the long run, 20 years from now, it'll sound like we solved a problem by taking money from Peter to pay Paul to put in infrastructure to make everyone grow. I really think the biggest issue is this is coming so fast without consultation and not preparing anyone and removing the right to understand who and what is going to represent me. And that it would be, it would be good to know if we are being isolated in the preferential treatment we're being given, or whether or not there will be a number of municipalities that are out there that are facing similar challenges that we could talk about from east to west and north to south. Are they all going to be facing this, or is this something that Niagara has been selected to be the first one to go ahead, to be the signpost?
Another question to which we don't have an answer.
Of course we don't. We don't have answers to any of these things, but we can look and learn, and we can say, we're not trying to drag our feet. We're trying to do this. If you want to give us a deadline, give us one, but give us one that's realistic and not going to put pressure on everybody and have people, our staff, abandon ship for other jobs while we try to make this happen. So it's just incomprehensible. And I say that having, as my colleague, lived through the reality of it at least 3 times. Thank you.
Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having seen this letter, as you said, you got it last Thursday, the 19th. It was dated the 5th. If this is a prelude to how organized they are in the future, you could see the disorganization started already when the letter was 14 days late getting with the other one. So it shows that there's a problem from the start. It wouldn't surprise me that these were both crafted by the Premier and had the regional chair sign it, because he's the one who appointed him here. So these things are starting to add up. Comments by other people. Hamilton, we know the disaster when Hamilton amalgamated. I do speak to realty people quite often, and they say watered down property taxes went absolutely ballistic when they amalgamated. So as far as tax increases go, that's exactly what did happen. You didn't get better service, you got more taxes. And then I go by history. You know, history is supposed to be something that we all benefit from. That's why they teach it in school. You're supposed to learn from history so that you don't make the same mistake twice. That's how we progress in this world, or we'll still have a club and live in a cave. but Peel was a disaster, and it was only a recent disaster. And yet it doesn't seem to hinder the thought process of trying to do Niagara when they don't have a track record. They don't have a track record at all. It was a complete failure. The problem that we have is a problem that I have mentioned for a long, long time, but I'm just one guy and most people don't listen to me anyways. The problem is the region. The region is disorganized, it's expensive, it's inefficient, and it's full of problems. And basically, this is what set this off, and I have heard from extremely reliable sources that there was a meeting in Toronto and that Mr. Flack had asked the people who came how many people were let go in the region of Niagara when they downloaded the planning department to the municipalities, and the answers were not anybody was let go. They were just moved around, and he blew up, which I don't blame him, because I asked the question 2 years ago. Well, I assumed since we're downloading, we're going to be some cost savings. There were no cost savings. Unfortunately, because of that situation, I think caused this, together with the timing of the Premier's visit on Destination Niagara strategy, this kind of falls into what they're trying to do. But what they fail to realize is the municipalities are not the cause of this. It's the region that's the cause of this. If you take the 126 councillors in the region of Niagara, they don't make the money that Hamilton makes. Hamilton makes $109,000 a year, plus they have their own secretary, they have their own office, they have everything. We don't have that. We're fortunate we get paid well here, but there's a lot of others that don't get paid as much as us. And I would dare say, if you look at the sunshine list, probably 6 township councillors would equal the wage of 1 regional person. So really, if you eliminate all those planners that were supposed to have been let go, if you eliminate the regional councillors because you want to downsize the region, you've saved a lot of money, and you've started the process of being accountable to the taxpayer. That to me would be something you could start and move forward in a direction, download some other responsibilities from the region to the municipalities, and go carefully and tread carefully. Don't jump in the water till you know how deep it is, and make sure you've got all your ducks in order so that you don't make the same mistakes you did in Peel, the same mistakes you made in Hamilton, and slowly take the region apart, dissemble it, and pass it on, and give the responsibilities to the municipalities. As far as councillors go, I think those councillors are important. I know in the rural area, it's because we're rural and we understand. I'm out there representing the agricultural community. I have a university degree in agriculture. I'm qualified to be out there. I understand it. I bring that information to council and help the people that live in my area. That's my purpose. If we end up amalgamating, we only got a couple representatives. If we amalgamate with Lincoln, Grimsby, Waynfleet, and West Lincoln, probably the mayor will be in Lincoln. It's all about development. It's all about destroying farmland. There'll be nothing done up here. We won't be looked after. We need the people out in the country. It doesn't cost much, but it protects the vested interests of our particular municipality, which is totally basically agricultural run. We're the biggest one in the 12 municipalities of the region of Niagara. We need to be properly represented. If they break us up, we will lose that. We won't gain anything out of this. Mr. Gale, I was listening to Channel 11 last week, and they said, the chair said that he's tired of this. If you look up for 4 years, it's actually over 25% taxes we've had increased in the last 4 years. And yet, he was also on the radio how proud he was to bring 6.98 down to 6.3. Now, you know how hard we worked here to bring 10 and 12% down to 1.26, but he was happy he got it to 6.3. Well, if you take 6.3 and multiply it by 4, it's 25%, which is exactly what he's talking about. So he's no better than his predecessor. He had a chance to say something and do something and prove something and say, no, it's not acceptable, that number is not good, we got to go down. He did exactly what Mr. Bradley did prior. They're talking about trying to save money for the taxes, and the man who was there to change the rules did exactly what the past does, so who's calling the kettle black? Like
Thank
this
you, Councillor.
This doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, so what, I understand what you're saying, and we've heard it before. I think everybody's had an opportunity, and I think I have the gist, and I will almost say that after we went through this to the Standing Committee a couple of years ago, our position is much the same. So I have drafted what is my response on behalf of our council.
Can I just one more thing, please, Madam Mayor? I'm not quite done.
Is it a different point?
Yes, this is driven, no one else has said this. This is driven by 3 municipalities. This is driven by Niagara Falls, who's a very, very strong supporter of what's going on with this. Extremely. He's on TV every week. St. Catharines, he's also a very strong supporter. In fact, Madam Mayor, 2 years ago, all the municipalities made a presentation to the head people in Toronto about their views and opinions of the future of the municipalities in the region of Niagara. You spoke very clearly about defending our heritage, character, and this municipality. The mayor of St. Catharines was on Channel 11 the very next morning, and I'm watching it, saying, I listened to all this, and all the mayors are in support of amalgamation. I said, you're lying. No, you're not. Our mayor didn't. They have already got in their brain, they're not listening to anybody talking around them. They have already made up their mind, and they have influence in Toronto. Welland, St. Catharines, and Niagara are the ones that are trying to pull the trigger because they stand to gain the most, and we stand to lose the most.
Okay.
And bottom line, that's where I feel.
And I understand that completely. So what I have drafted, and I think unless there are some tweaks that some of you would like to make to this, I'm going to just give this rough draft to Beth, who will put together a statement, as the others have done, so it will come out tomorrow. But I wanted first it to come to our council. I wanted you to have an opportunity to think about, knowing that it was on the agenda, what you might want it to say. So I'm going to read it you read it yourself, but I'm going to read it not for your sake, but for the sake of the public. So my statement regarding governance discussions in Niagara. Currently, there are more questions than answers regarding potential changes to municipal governance in Niagara. I am very disappointed in the way that this matter was brought forward for discussion this past week, starting with the letter from Regional Chair Bob Gale to Niagara mayors dated February 5th, but not emailed until noon on February 19th, together with a letter sent to Municipal Affairs and Housing Minister Rob Flack that same day, was not, in my mind, an appropriate way to start a discussion regarding an issue of such magnitude, an issue with potential repercussions for so many people living and working in Niagara today. Meaningful consultation with municipalities, their councils, residents, and community partners as part of a thoughtful, transparent process should have been the initial phase of any such governance change-related discussions. Any and all discussions that could potentially change the manner in which Niagara communities are governed should not be a quick, knee-jerk reaction to numbers and circumstances, but rather should be advanced using careful analysis of all pros and cons, open dialogue, and consultation with all stakeholders, and should be based upon a data-driven business case. There are a great many aspects of our current two-tier governance model that I believe need to be addressed, especially at the upper tier level. I absolutely support efforts to examine our current regional service delivery models to improve coordination, increase efficiency, and most of all, reduce costs to our residents. I am fully committed to a careful, cautious, consultative path focused specifically on potential regional level matters, such as the number of councillors and the appropriate level of regional services. Each municipality in the region is unique in its composition, in its needs, especially regarding infrastructure, and its economic focus. West Lincoln is the largest geographic land area in the region of Niagara, with a relatively small population when compared with others in Niagara. It is a rural, urban mixed municipality that now has the appropriate planning in place to accept the carefully paced growth that is predicted to come by 2051. We are attracting new small and mid-sized businesses to our community, and we continue to advocate for the appropriate mix of housing to allow for the related workforce to be able to live in our community, for young families to get a start on home ownership, and for seniors to be able to downsize and remain in our community. We continue to make strides in the advancement of local initiatives that support sustainable living and affordability for our residents. We manage our finances responsibly, managing to keep our local tax rate as low as possible, while still delivering local services as we continue to build a strong, healthy, and welcoming community. As mayor, in collaboration with the West Lincoln Council, I will continue to advocate for what is best for the residents of West Lincoln. I will also continue to advocate for a fair, transparent decision-making process, grounded in hard evidence as we move forward with any governance-related discussions. Earlier this term of council, when the potential amalgamation of municipalities was last discussed, West Lincoln's preference was to maintain the status quo. We agreed at that time that a one-municipality model would definitely not be in the best interests of West Lincoln, and our current position remains the same.
Hold the last paragraph.
We can bold the last paragraph. I mean, essentially, if something is enforced, we'll have to make some further decisions. But at this point in time, I think the one thing that we were strongly against the last time, because one of the things that was brought forward to us was one big city like we see in our neighbors. And I think that we agreed at that time, and I don't hear any differences from what anybody has had to say tonight, that that would be any different. There are lots of options, and as I started with this, there are more questions than answers. Our first meeting, where all of Regional Council will be there, is on Thursday afternoon at 4:30. Each member of Regional Council has been told they can speak for 5 minutes about their preferences. They are taking no delegations, so they don't want it clouded by members of various organizations or groups or communities coming forward for delegation purposes. And that will be followed by a council meeting at 6:30 on Thursday evening. And that, at this point, is all we know. Now, some of us are planning to attend the State of the Region. So that should be a very interesting presentation put forward by the chair. And I'm sure that in the meantime, before then, he will have to come up with some answers to some of the questions that are already being posed through the media and elsewhere. So, Councillor Rayner.
Madam Mayor, in your letter that you put together, I'm just thinking that this is all focused on saving money, being more efficient, more being accountable to the taxpayer. So shouldn't we be putting something in there about the fact that dismembering the region and making the municipalities more accountable for their own action is a cost saving in itself, because it's proven in the past that when you amalgamate, it doesn't work and it becomes more expensive. So the problem has been acknowledged based on what I just said of waste in the region. So why don't the letter focus more on the attention? You have the problem with the region. There is a tremendous amount of money that's wasted there. That can be an excellent start to the process, and then let the municipalities work with it when you download the region, and then judge us after you give us a while to see what we can do.
So I think that's a fair point, Councillor, but at this point in time, this public statement will be my response as well. So in the letter that came to each of the mayors, we were asked for a response by March 3rd. 4 municipality model, 1 municipality model. And I am not choosing one, I am just anti the other.
But why don't we make a
But all
model?
the other discussions will come up moving forward. But
Okay, because
If
you're
this is not
taking
the
Model
place-
C. You're saying I don't want either one of them.
this is not the place. I just want to be very clear that we are not in any way supporting one big city.
But I'm just
West
thinking-
Lincoln will be the losers in that,
Oh,
and
we'll
we
lose
recognize that.
hands down. But the point is, if you could suggest that the problem should be focusing on the region as item C, item D. Item C is we don't want A and B. Item C is we want to remain our own identity. And item D is your problem is a region. May I suggest you start there?
And I think that will be part of the discussions that we will hear in Regional Council on Thursday night. But at this point in time, this is just a response to what we've been asked for. We haven't been asked to make suggestions. There's been absolutely zero discussion about potential anythings. So the start of that discussion will take place on Thursday.
Right. One important thing that I learned in discussions with people who sit on the region is that the mayors feel a little helpless representing the taxpayers in some degree, because there are 20 regional councilors and 12 mayors. The mayors lots of times get outvoted on what they think.
Absolutely not.
That's what I heard.
Well,
That's what I heard.
I would say that's absolutely wrong.
So they didn't get a
Because what-
say because they were outvoted.
No, the difference is maybe some smaller mayors might be outvoted, smaller municipal mayors. But we have myself, as you know,
Yeah.
because we fought to get another position, and that's Councillor Whitty.
Yeah, and that's.
Waynfleet has one, just the mayor.
Yes.
However, the larger municipalities, when the region was formed, is based on population.
Yes, they had a lot
So
more
where
regional.
you have no say is because it's population-based. You have no say if you're one of the smaller municipalities in terms of things, because moving forward, you're already, if you take the 3 cities that you alluded to, and you take their additional, because they're cities, their additional representation.
Correct.
That's where the power of the vote is at this currently. However, when you're there, and Councillor Woodavine would attest to that, you are asked not to wear the hat of your own individual municipality,
Yeah,
but to wear your regional hat and make decisions for the best of the region.
And we know that.
So there's a conflict there,
Oh, yes.
because obviously that doesn't work in all
Correct.
cases. So ultimately, let's just stick with this for now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Riley.
I'm perfectly content with the letter you prepared. I think it very clearly addresses your disappointment on behalf of the municipality, which is shared by basically 99.9% of the municipality. It covers, critical points. I definitely think, referencing the knee-jerk reaction, it certainly feels that way. Even when I go back and look at this letter here that was sent by the chair, he tries to compare municipal councillors to 126 of us to Queen's Park representation. As the councillor mentioned earlier, again, a really good point to highlight. It takes 5 or 7 councillors, maybe 8 even, depending on which municipality you're in, to cover one wage of one MPP.
Exactly.
And so, this is, if there's any seriousness to this letter, this is not about cost savings. This clearly becomes more and more about suppressing voices. And so again, I think, in all due respect to Mr. Gale there, I hope he doesn't take this serious, because I don't know how anybody else can, because it seems to be very inaccurate to his mission of claiming he wants to make life more affordable. I support your letter, Madam Mayor. I hope we can keep up the fight for our community and make sure that we still have a place we call home. It doesn't become something else.
Thank you. Anything further from anybody? Shall we put this to rest? This was just communications, folks. But anyway, so thank you. Okay, so let's move on with our agenda items. And if as you think of this, there's something else that jumps out at you that you think will in some way, before tomorrow morning, mid-morning, strengthen that in any way, I'm happy to take that. I didn't want it to sound like anything other than it came from West Lincoln, so that was the point. So that takes me to my mayor's remarks. Aren't you glad I get to speak again? But they're very, very short. Very short. Okay, so mayor's remarks for the council meeting of February 23rd. The first week of February, I attended the politicians' breakfast hosted by the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce, at which a panel, MP Dean Allison, MPP Sam Osterhoff, Regional Councillor Rob Foster, and Lincoln Mayor Sandra Easton provided interesting answers to pre-posed and pre-selected questions pertaining to local, regional, provincial, and federal issues. It was an interesting conversation to hear. This event also provided an excellent networking opportunity, as many local businesses and community organization leaders were also in attendance. That Friday, February 6th evening, and on the following Saturday afternoon, John and I attended the hockey games that our West Lincoln team played in the Mayor's Cup tournament in Port Colborne. This team made up of West Lincoln staff, and I will add male and female members from various departments, represented us well, demonstrating not only their skills, but great sportsmanship and camaraderie. Also on Saturday, I once again had the opportunity this year to be part of the judging panel for the school speech competition at the Smithville Legion. Each of the students who took part this year did an excellent job, and I will add, I didn't put it in, but there were more participants this year than last. The scores were all very close in each of the 3 divisions. It's always wonderful, as a former educator, to see young people take part in this important life skill of public speaking. February 12th was the final budget meeting at the region, followed by a special council meeting to ratify and put into bylaw the 6.3 increase in the 2026 regional budget. Although still much higher than all councillors wished, it is a good-sized reduction over the 2025 increase. Monday, February 16th, Family Day, began with a wonderful firefighters pancake breakfast, along with the various family-oriented activities throughout the day. The afternoon was highlighted by a quick, action-filled hockey game between the St. Catharines Saints and the Stony Creek Tigers AAA senior teams. It was extremely heartwarming to see the community center, including the library, filled throughout the day with hundreds upon hundreds of community members, all enjoying the activities and events organized by our library and our recreation staff. Residents were impressed, as was I, by our recreation staff, who managed to keep the building clean and tidy as hordes of people moved about from activity to activity. Our team of library and recreation staff really stepped up admirably to make certain that our community center was showcased so very well, and I would like to take this opportunity to express my personal thanks to all of them. Saturday evening, we had the pleasure of attending the Mardi Gras celebration at the Greek Hall in Smithville. It was an evening filled with much music, dancing, and laughter, and of course some really delicious Greek food. It was certainly our pleasure to have been included in this event, and I would recommend it to anyone. When those tickets go up and you notice that, It's a fun evening with probably the best Greek meal you ever would want to have. And finally, today, just a couple of hours before this meeting, it was my honor to install the new members of the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors in their new roles as part of their annual general meeting. And I had to do these in addition to prepping all that other stuff, and it's been a busy month, so they are very short. And that takes us then to number 12 on our agenda, which is reports of committee. 12.1 is the Growth and Sustainability Committee, and Councillor Maychak, you have those, including the confidential minutes.
Through you, Madam Mayor, moved by myself that the minutes relating to the February 9th, 2026 meeting, Growth and Sustainability Committee meeting be accepted, and that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion on February 9th, 2026, Growth and Sustainability Committee meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with exemptions provided in Section 239 of the Municipal Act.
Thank you, Councillor. Someone to second those, please. Councillor Riley, thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the open session portion of those minutes? Okay, and seeing none then, Mr. Clerk? Hopefully everybody's device works. Okay, that carries. And that takes us to 12.2, which is the Infrastructure Committee meeting minutes of February 9th. And Councillor Riley, you have those?
I do, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself that the minutes relating to the February 9th, 2026 Infrastructure Committee meeting be accepted.
Thank you. And someone to second those minutes? Councillor Trombetta, thank you. Are there any questions or comments, members of council, about those minutes? Okay, seeing none then, Mr. Clerk. And that also carries. And that leaves us at 12.3, which are the Corporate Service Committee meetings. And Councillor Bradrick, you have those.
Yes, moved by myself that the minutes relating to the February 17th, 2026 Corporate Services Committee meeting be accepted.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about those minutes? Seeing none, then we're ready for the vote again. Oh, I didn't get a seconder. I didn't get a seconder. Riley, thank you, Councillor. Yeah, I glanced down at my page just as soon as I said that. So now vote, now that we have a mover and a seconder. Thank you. And that also carries. So we have nothing to reconsider this evening and no notices of motion to rescind. I'm going to go to other business. Now, we've been busy talking, all of us, but is there anyone who has other business that they want to bring forward? Councillor Rayner?
Madam Mayor, if I can just make a comment. I want to thank you for what you've done with regards to this situation that we're in right now with the region. You've lived here, like us, practically most of our lives, and right now we're fighting for our lives. And this community means everything to us. That's why we're here, trying to protect it. And your efforts are very much appreciated. And all I can ask is anything we can do to help you, please don't hesitate to let us know. And please keep us up to date as soon as you hear any news, because this is probably the most critical situation that I personally, in the 45 years that I've lived here, have ever been under. And if there ever was a time to be strong, to be united, and to fight for what we believe, this is the time where we really have to be together. And thank you for what you've done.
Thank you. And thank you for the comment. I think that is the time that West Lincoln has to stand as West Lincoln. You know, we have to speak up for ourselves. So I agree. Thank you. I would, Councillor Chichak, you going to say anything?
Madam Mayor.
You sort of had your arms kind of folded there. I wasn't sure.
You know, I don't have anything to say about our community, but one last remark is that, you know, years ago when Mr. Harris, the premier of this province, did who does what, the outcome of that exercise was not equal, and we all knew it. And as time went on, it was realized by most, the costs most sensitive to escalation had remained the responsibility of the municipal and regional levels. In fact, the magic in this whole formula is the fact that costs have escalated disproportionately to any growth that has happened, whether it's tax or population. In fact, what we're facing right now is that the province has given and left with us those problems. and that they have been able, by that very exercise, have been given the opportunity to find funding to do other things within this province. I'm not going to stand up for communities that have wastefully thrown money at events or getting reelected or whatever. I'm not going to, that's not it. But what we need to look is at reality. The reality of where we in Niagara, like every other municipality across Ontario, is that we are facing healthcare, escalating police, mental illness, addictions, etc. And when you put those all into a box and you say, gee, those used to be dealt with by the province, wonder why we're suffering. So it's just something to put into your quiver for when you're talking with our colleagues at the region. It's nobody's fault. It is exactly what came from the exercise of who does what, and the remnants.
And that was 20 years ago or better.
That was 25 years ago.
That's the sad thing about it, isn't it?
Exactly. So
Yeah, thank you.
I left the room for a minute, and my brain went into overdrive, and I just decided I had to say that. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Councillor Riley, anything further to add tonight?
No.
Councillor Turbetta, anything further? No. Councillor Broderick, shaking your head, no. Councillor Maychak?
I too want to thank you for your leadership. Since starting here, you've been a tremendous help, but I want to thank all of council for having unity on this particular issue. It's great to see that we're not divided and we all have the same belief in this community.
Same concerns, same questions.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, on a better note, I just want to say that this week upcoming, we have a great staff and council team bowling for kids' sake on Wednesday. Tim Hortons bowling for kids' sake. So, you know, we do our job and we also do some things that benefit other parts of our community. So that's Wednesday. On Saturday, many of us are walking for coldest night of the year. And then some of us are dining at the State of the Region on Friday. So in any case, it will be a busy rest of the week, but hopefully those two highlights of doing something for others really is beneficial to our own spirits. Okay, so are there any new items of business? I didn't know of anything coming up. There are no confidential matters. Everything's in the open tonight for sure. And so there's nothing to disclose there, and that takes us to bylaws. Councillor Riley, and you have the bylaws tonight.
I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself that leave be granted to introduce bylaws 2026-05, 2026-06, 2026-07, 2026-08, and 2026-09, and that the same shall be considered to have been read a first, second, and third time with one reading and are hereby adopted, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and affix the corporate seal thereto, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding.
Thank you. So someone who would like to second bylaws? Anybody who's been, Councillor Maychak, thank you. Any questions about bylaws this evening? And seeing none, Mr. Clerk, we are ready for a vote. And that also carries. And as that's our last piece of business this evening, I'm going to adjourn this meeting at the hour of 8:22. Thank you all very much for your